So quiet.
As always.
Oh.
I can't tell if it's fading out or if you're just moving it further away from the mic.
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of both.
Oh, well, good day. Good day, everyone.
I am a sound technician. Hi, weirdos. And it's me, Dan.
And Jake, his brother.
Well, while I was waiting for you for the last 45 minutes when you said that you were getting on,
I had a misadventure. So I was only 15 minutes before I got to the office, but then I poured myself. I said, I'm going to stop drinking because I'm becoming very absent-minded and forgetful. And then I was like, you know what? I think I had forgotten why I drink. So I decided to pour myself a scotch. And I brought it in here, and then I set up, my very professional studio setup. I put the sound dampening U thing, and I put a pad of Post-it notes under the microphone. The microphone has just this shitty little cord that just barely reaches the computer. And as I was setting all that up, I elbowed my scotch over, and it filled my keyboard with scotch, and then the computer went haywire and rebooted.
Oh, well.
And it had to update, it said, and it took a little while to do that.
It's because it was drunk. While I was waiting, I started the personalized gift that I will be sending to Lisa, our one and only fan.
Our Patreon. Patreon?
I don't know.
Our supporter. Our number one and only supporter.
So I thought, well, because she's actually willingly given us some funds, I would just reallocate those funds to a present to Lisa. Because I feel way too guilty.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair because realistically, when you donate to a Patreon, you expect them to come out with content, and we don't. We've been pretty good about being around the first of the month. I believe our last one was April 1st, which was because I remember saying Happy April Fool's Day. And now it's like May 2nd or 3rd. So
Yeah. Well, tomorrow's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. I can't say it because of my lisp. May the 4th be with you.
You sound just like Luke Skywalker.
No, leave my sister. So, I saw your extensive notes. It's been time.
This has been a very eventful month. And every time something happened, I had so I said, I'm not going to... Like, after the first thing happened, I was like, oh, we've got enough to talk about for a podcast. So I didn't bother researching anything. I was just like, we'll just talk about this. And then things kept happening this month, and I kept adding them to the notes. And then I was like, oh my God, this is going to be either like a megasode, or I'm just going to go point form and be like, Mom's house was full of ants. I put out a forest fire with my shoe. It was...
I forgot about the ants.
Yeah, that's how it started. That was my first note. Ants. And I was like, oh my God, was that this month? That feels like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So what happened, Mom had been at the cottage a lot. And I came into her house to check on her plants or something. It was just like an in and out kind of thing. And I saw a note. I saw a note from Nancy. Yeah, maybe it could have been. Sometimes I do on my way to work when Mom's not home. I'm like, I'm just gonna stop for a shit. But
tactical shit.
I saw this note from Nancy saying, I found some ants in the bathtub. And I was like, ants in the bathtub? That doesn't sound very good. And then I looked around, and there were ants everywhere. There were ants on the walls. There were ants on the floors. There were ants in the sink. There were ants in both bathtubs. The toilets were all full of ants. I've never seen anything like it.
Gross.
So, fortunately, I've got a connection, a guy named Joel, who works at Orkin. And I was like, you got to call Joel. He's like 7 feet tall, and he is really good with ants. And so he came.
Hates ants.
He takes it personally. So Joel came, and I haven't seen any ants really for the last 3 weeks, but it was an alarming number of ants. It was like you would not be comfortable going there for dinner. And Mom was sleeping there. And it was like, I was sure she was going to get bitten by ants all night because there were like millions of them.
I've got
It was
this
like living
rash.
in an anthill.
I've got this rash that I can't seem to get rid of. All over
My legs just
my
sting
body.
all night. Yeah. Yeah. I had a weird
So they,
conversation
but
with
they
Mom.
got,
She's-
apparently they got rid of the ants, but then they charged her twice.
I don't know if she sorted that out or not. So she had the ants. Mom had like not a great month. It didn't start out as a great month. So our last podcast, we were talking about how she had bought the Acura. We were like,
Oh, yeah.
she got a new
Yeah,
car.
that's
She got
right.
this Acura for a lot of money for like a really base model car.
Yeah.
Anyway, she heard the podcast because I listened to it with her in the car. I'd forgotten kind of what we talked about.
that we made
And
fun of her.
We did make fun of her, which I think deservedly so. But, you know, anyway, she got really upset. She was like, "I'm a burden. I'm just a burden on you." I was like, "Well, yes,
No.
but you know, we love you. We love you. We don't mind the burden." But yes, you called me 80 times about your fucking car while I was at work. It is a burden. I don't mind. You're a family.
I don't
you know.
mind. I don't mind.
But I don't mind. It's not a major burden. It was funny. It was just a funny story. Anyway, but she got really upset because I referred to her as a burden or something, or agreed that she was. Anyway, so you had found this this Toyota, so she canceled her order on. Well, what happened was she had an old Volkswagen Phaeton that I had bought in Vancouver, and she wanted to trade in both her cars on this Acura that she had already put a deposit on.
Yeah.
And so the Phaeton has a thing, there's like a known fault in old Volkswagens where there's a brake sensor fault. So if it doesn't sense that your foot is on the brake, if the sensor is broken, it won't let you take the car out of park, right? Because you have to have your foot on the brake to put it in drive. So it started doing that, and I said, just take it to Volkswagen because it's like a $40 solenoid that it literally just goes on the bottom of the brake pedal. It takes 20 minutes of labor to change it out. And I'd had to do it before, so it wasn't like this big deal. I knew what it was, and so she took it to Volkswagen. And now, keep in mind, she's been driving this car all year, like for the last 3 years, fairly frequently. And she took it to Volkswagen, and they called her and said the car is electronically totaled. And I said, it's definitely not. It's just the brake solenoid. They said, no, the car is flooded. Flooded? It's full of water. I said, it wasn't full of water when you brought it in, was it? No. I said, did you notice if the carpets were wet? No, they weren't wet. And so I called Brian just in case, because Mom isn't always observant, or she's also kind of blind, right? Like her eyes aren't so good. But Brian, who had tried to help her get it into drive, said, no, I was on my hands and knees in it. It wasn't wet. It wasn't full of water.
Yeah.
So definitely what had happened is they'd gone out to look at what size brake solenoid it needed, left it in the parking lot because they didn't need to take it into the garage. There was an absolute torrential rainstorm. The mechanic left the door open and flooded the fucking car. I mean, there is no doubt. And they said, no, it's got a leak in it. It's leaking. It's letting water in. I said, no, it isn't. That car has been outside for 5 years. It's been outside in the rain all the time. Yeah. It's definitely not leaking water. So they basically destroyed the car and then charged her $300 for their labor to diagnose where the leak was coming from, which they never found, amazingly. Yeah. And I said, is there any security footage? Because I'd be interested in seeing if the door was left open. And they would not let me see the security footage. So clearly it was. And I assume they're just banking on me not taking them to court, which I'm not going to because it's like a $5,000 car. And now she got $2,000 for it, trading it in as junk. But it's a shame because it was a great car.
Yeah, it was a great car.
Really nice car. But anyway, that was the anyway, they wouldn't give her any money for it at the Acura dealership. So you had found her a Toyota, a nice Toyota Highlander, and you sent us a bunch of cars. And I went through the ones you sent, and I went over to Toyota, and Mom was at Volkswagen. She was like, "I'm just gonna get a Jetta." I was like, "Fuck Volkswagen." I said, don't give it to Volkswagen. Fuck them. I hated my Jetta. I hated it.
You had a Jetta?
Yeah, when I lived in Vancouver, I had a Jetta. And it was...
And a Phaeton? Or did you trade it in?
I traded the Jetta in for the Phaeton because I hated the Jetta so much. It was so uncomfortable.
I love my Golf.
I liked the Golf too. That was what I went to trade it in on.
Yeah.
But the roof was so low that I had to sit in it with my head sideways to drive. Like I had to have my neck bent to drive the Jetta. It was...
Yeah, you got
it was
the tall
just
gene.
uncomfortable.
I just got the fat gene.
Anyway, so I went down to look at that car that you sent, and I was like, man, this truck is beautiful. It only had like 25,000 kilometers on it. It's 2017. And so we went out for test driving it, and she canceled the Acura, which good for her because they changed their mind on the deal they were going to give her. And Toyota gave her $2,000 for the wrecked Phaeton and $2,000 for the wrecked Mercedes, and, and then gave her this car, that'll last for hopefully another 10, 15 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's anything like ours has been through hell. We put it through hell, and it still goes. And ours is a 2005.
The thing that kills cars here are Canadian winters because they salt the roads to keep the ice down.
Yeah.
And the salt just like eats through the frame of your car.
Yeah, exactly. But who knows? Hopefully it's got a thick frame. If it's anything like the rest of our family, it does.
Did I tell you about my boat? The little boat that I bought, the plastic one? Well,
you told me that the guy was like, you'll die if you take that into the Miramichi.
Yeah, so I took it anyway. Because I was like, well, I don't have a boat. So what's happened? I went up. God, I'm just talking. I'm just unloading all these stories on you. But I went up and I caught a salmon right off the bank by our camp. Like a big salmon. And then I was talking to the neighbor and he was like, actually, all the salmon are running on the other side of the river. You need a boat to get out there. Because I got that one and then never got another bite. He said, I'll take you and Jack out in my boat and you can, try your hand at it. Jack caught a massive salmon. Yeah, big, like spawning male with the hook bill. It's probably 25 pounds. It was a huge fish.
But you can't keep these ones? It's all catch and release there?
It's catch and release. It goes year by year, but it's catch and release this year because they're trying to get the stock back up, the salmon stock. So I don't mind. I release almost everything anyway. Except I accidentally killed a trout trying to save it because it had a hook in its mouth, and I was like, "Oh, buddy, I'm sorry. I'll get that hook out for you." It had a hook with like I'd hooked it on a fly, and I took that out, but it had another hook and a little piece of line sticking out of its mouth. So somebody had broken off like a worm on a hook, and the trout had eaten it, and the line was sticking out of its mouth. I was like, "Oh, I'll save you, buddy." And I went to take it out, and it pulled its stomach out through its mouth, and it died. Fucking should have never tried. Should have just put it back in the water. I'm an asshole.
So
anyway, Jack got this huge salmon. So I said, "Fuck this! I'm bringing my boat up," because for spring it's been incredibly calm. Yeah, really chill. Like the water's been nice and calm. That like I was telling you how fast the current was. It had slowed way down. And the water level had come down nicely. So they were like, it's really like early summer. So I said, I'll bring my little boat up. So I brought it up. It took me forever to put this thing together. Like, I know it's just putting a motor on a boat.
Oh, I was going to say, you had to put it together.
Well, no, I had to put the motor on and I had to put, so when you think about it, there's like an anchor that has to drop off the bow of the boat. So that when the anchor catches, the boat is faced into the current. So, because if you turn sideways to the current, you'll just roll over. Like it's pretty strong current. So I had to get this thing assembled. Anyway, I broke it off once. I lost an anchor. I all this. But when Mom was down, I was like, Mom, I'll take you out fishing to see if you can catch anything. Because, you don't even need to cast. You can just troll your fly behind the boat. Because then the water was pretty calm. So I carried the motor down, put it on the boat, got Mom in. Took off, went up to the Cairns River, which is like the most expensive place to fish in the world is the corner of the Cairns in the southwest Miramichi. And she caught a trout and it was nice. And then my motor died. This brand new 6-horsepower motor. It died and I was like, what the fuck? I can't get it started. And I figured I was doing something wrong because I didn't know how the motor worked. So I tried all these different things and wouldn't go. And then I thought, did the gas leak out? And I took the top off the motor, and because it's got like its own little built-in gas tank because it's such a small engine. And sure enough, the gas had leaked out in the back of my truck, and it was completely empty. So fortunately, these dudes pulled up next to us, and in their camo, and like, you know, guys who know what they're doing, clearly have done it for years and years. And they were like, hey, you know, City Slicker, what can we do for you? I said, I think I'm out of gas. So they like cut a pop bottle in half and poured gas in for me, and we got home. Anyway, so then Mom left, and I said, well, I'm going to go out again. We had this torrential rain. Oh my God, that's a whole other story. The Pentecostal fisherman that I hired as a guide. But
why do you have to hire a guide?
Well, just to go to different places that I don't know, right? Like because I don't have a good boat, so I can't go way up and down the river in this little thing. It's a piece of shit.
Oh, right. So they take you in their boat.
Yeah, they take me in theirs, and they can go to like 20 different salmon pools. Until June 15th, you can fish anywhere. So I hired this guide. It was pissing down rain and 0 degrees, so there was snow flying. And I showed up. I'm such a fucking idiot. I showed up in a rain jacket and a little like lightweight fishing shirt and my jeans. And it wasn't raining when I left the house. And when I got there, first of all, he was mad at me that I was late because it shows a total lack of discipline. And then he looked me up and down like, what the fuck is he wearing? And he's a Pentecostal minister, and he's like really strictly Pentecostal. And so I was trying to be polite and stuff, but I got really cold. My hands were turning blue. I caught 2 big salmon with him, which was really cool, and hooked a third. But he was a nice guy. His name's Bonner. But in the end, it was fine. But I was like, at 11:15, I said, Bonner, I can't feel my hands, man. I gotta go in and warm up or something. But the only place to go in was Bonner's house, which is like quite a ways away from where we're fishing. Yeah. So it was kind of a pain for him. So he took me in, and then like took me to his house where his Pentecostal wife was like,
washed your feet.
Well, yeah, it was almost like that. So it was, by then it was like hammering down rain, like hammering down, you know, there was ice forming on everything, including in my clothes. I had a pool of ice cold water in my taint, and my balls had shriveled way up inside my body so that it felt like I'd been kicked in the nuts, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I've never had that like reflex so hard because it was so cold, and I was just shivering like uncontrollably. So I went into their house, and it's immaculate. This lady, like, it was very traditional. It was like the Amish kind of, like, she looked to him to get permission to talk to me, you know, and I'd ask her questions, and she'd check with him if she could answer them. Like, it was pretty intense. But he was
like, douche?
No. It was like, oh, this house is beautiful. It's really nice.
Jebediah, do you mind if I answer?
Anyway. It got better, like it got more relaxed as we went. And, you know, because growing up, we're in the church, and we're in the Baptist church, but I know quite a bit about different Christian religions, like the different denominations and stuff. So I could kind of keep up, and he'd been a missionary, so I was pretty interested in those stories too. Like he'd been in the South Pacific and all the tropics and in India, so I could ask them stuff like that, right? And he could tell. We talked about food, and you know, you make the
favorite
conversation.
Position. Yeah.
I didn't ask him about that.
I would assume it's missionary.
But their house, yeah, missionary. Ironically, it's reverse cowgirl. But their house was immaculate. Like, she was totally OCD about the house. And he, right in front of her, he would talk to me and say, you know, my wife has the mental problems. I think she's quite obsessive compulsive. And you can probably tell from the house. And I was dripping in like indigo dark jeans. And I was like, I can't sit. All the furniture is white. So I'm not sitting on anything. So what I did was I pulled up. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, took my jeans off, and wrung them out into the toilet. This is like, I was just coming up, coming up with ideas on the fly, like how am I going to get through this
Yeah, he was
without
probably
insulting
like,
my host?
Gertrude, I think that boy has the squirts.
Yeah, it was so embarrassing, but and I felt like such a fool, right? I showing up in the wrong clothes. I'd forgotten my sweater. I'd forgotten my gloves. I forgot everything. I was so
You
excited
were just
to fish.
excited. You were just an excited little guy.
As soon as I get a fishing rod in my hand, I'm like a 5-year-old kid. Yeah.
Keep talking. That's fine.
Well, I turn into like a boy, and I can't think straight, and I don't make good decisions. I just can't be relied upon to remember things as soon as the prospect of fishing comes up. Anyway, Dan's obviously muted here, but what I did was I pulled up a wooden chair and sat with them and warmed up over time.
That he had made himself.
He built the house by hand.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Those people are just beyond my scope of capabilities.
He
Of
not only did he build the house
conversing
by
with-
hand, he plants potatoes in these like hidden locations and corn and stuff, and then he goes and harvests them, and he feeds himself all year round with the stuff that he harvests. So
That's just
he's 70.
ridiculous.
Oh, the guy is 71 years old, and wiry and muscly, and looks like Billy Bob Thornton, like exactly like Billy Bob Thornton without the tattoos, and and
He wears a
and
little vial of his wife's blood around his neck.
you read the same Rolling Stone as I did, but it was so strange. It was such an interesting experience, but a little bit scary. You know, I'm not a social guy, and like getting into those situations, all I could do was be like, "Thank you, Mom, for teaching me about what Pentecostal churches are and stuff," because they're into, you know. And listen, this is non-judgmental. I don't care what you're into, but I think they went the whole hog. Like he was talking about faith healing and like talking in tongues, and I don't know if he does like the snake handling or not, but it was that kind of. It's that kind of church. Like
he brings
almost
out like a little backyard garter snake.
yeah, it's like that kind of revivalist. Anyway, it was so intense. But you know, and I said, I was telling Mom about it, and she's like, I don't know about that stuff. I said, well, let's put it this way: that guy went on 26 missions to like dangerous countries. He's eaten dog meat. He's
At
built
home.
churches for people. He's built churches for communities. He's like spread the word of the gospel, regardless of whether it's a weird version of it or not. And he's taught people how to garden and taught people how to fish. And he's done a lot more for the world than I ever will.
You might say that he's a fisher of men.
Anyway, I tried. I actually quite like the guy. I said if you come up, that would be a person we could go
That
fishing with.
would not be
but
the person to take
it
me
may
fishing
not
with.
be the
Can I
right
just tell
one.
you that right
It may
now
not
I
be
will
the
not be
one.
going fishing with the Pentecostal minister. I appreciate that you want me to be there, but that would be the worst.
Well, I fished with another guy who chain smoked the whole time. And
That's
all he
fine.
did was tell Ted Williams stories, because Ted Williams, the baseball player, owned a camp on the Miramichi, and he was like, that fucking Ted Williams, I'll tell you, that son of a bitch could fish like you
know
wouldn't
what?
fucking believe.
It's
He
just going to
drank
be
like 3 beers
you
at lunch. I was like,
and me.
I think this. I said,
I refuse.
I think
I
Dan would
refuse to
handle
go fishing with other people.
Well, no, these guys can get you more fish. That's the.
I don't
that's the
care.
whole
Well,
point.
really, I just need you there to untangle my line every third cast.
Well, that's what
And,
this guy did for me. That's what this the other guy did for me, because he was younger than me and he had good eyes, right? So we were fishing in the wind, and I would get wind knots, and he'd be like, "Oh, just reel her in. I'll fix that for you." He was more your pace. He was super easy but he was way more expensive. Bonner was like, I said, Bonner, how much is this? He said, it's $100. I was like, I'm not going to pay you more than that. I dragged a 71-year-old man out in the rain for 9 hours in the snow. I felt terrible. The other place was more expensive, but I said, if Dan comes up, we'll book the good place. But I'll probably go with Bonner again because he's cheap. Anyway,
I don't care that I have to completely change my personality to hang out with him.
well, yeah, he. I feel like I change my personality no matter who I'm hanging out with, other than like you and Chrissy and Jack and Mom. You're the only people who actually know me, and probably Lisa does better than most people because she listens to this. But you know, every other situation, they're not meeting me. That's my representative.
Yeah, that's right.
When I'm in the hospital. I'm not. You're not meeting Jake. You're meeting Jake's hospital representative. I try to seem like I'm a fun-loving, make you feel at ease, talking Chuck Yeager voice. When things go wrong.
You like things going in your groin?
When blood is squirting out of something that I accidentally stuck with a needle, I don't say what I'm really thinking. Oh, fuck. I say,
I just killed somebody.
I think we nicked a little vessel there, but we'll get right on that and we'll get back to our
Looks like your blood pressure is just fine.
Rate's going up a little bit there, I've noticed. Anyway, but the whole point of this story was that I fished with this dude. But I got to tell the end of the story. So one of his missionary stories was that he converted a guy who converted another guy who became a church musician. And they set up this beautiful church. I think it was in Tonga, or it was in the South Pacific, in one of the islands, or Vanuatu or something like that. And when they were there, they set up this Pentecostal mission, and they fed the poor and everything else. But there was a Catholic church already there. And it's not like here where they're next door to each other and everybody just says hi and get in the car and go home. The Catholics burned the church down and beat the shit out of the minister and killed the guitar player. Anyway, but that got us talking about guitars. And I was like, I play guitar.
I play the guitar.
Before I knew where the story was going, I didn't know it was going to be like a horror story.
Have you ever desired to go to Tonga?
We have a church in need.
We've got a position vacant.
Yeah. So I didn't really know where that story was going, and I was like, oh yeah, I play guitar too. Anyway, so Bonner plays like 26 instruments, and so I'm always so happy when somebody says something that I can continue having a conversation about while I'm fishing, right? Because I hate sitting in silence. It's so awkward, and I feel like an asshole. I'll tell you what else. I hate hiring people. Like, I hate being around the people that I hire to do something, because I know that's it's good for them and it's good for their life and they're making some money. But I feel like it's somehow demeaning. I hate being a boss. I fucking hate it.
Same. Yeah.
So when we have a lady who cleans at our house once a week, I hate being here. I won't even come when she's here.
Yeah, well, mine has just arrived. That's why. And it's a public holiday, and I feel like a dick.
Yeah, but you're working, right? This is work.
No.
You're on your
yes,
computer, you're in your office.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't get that Patreon paycheck.
Yeah. So I said, "What's your instrument of choice right now?" He said, "Oh, I play the lap steel," which I don't know if you know what that is, but if you think of the theme song from the Trailer Park Boys.
No.
You know that
that
instrument. Anyway, I said, "Oh, that's really cool. I know a guy in St. John who plays it." And he said the guy's name, and I said, "Yeah, that's him." And so we got talking about that, and then at about 3:15, 3:30, I said, "Bonner, I got to call it a day, man. I can't feel my fingers, and my hands still are really aching from being out in the cold like that in the rain." So he brought us in, and he'd given me some layers to put on because I was shivering in his house, and he gave me a bunch of clothes to wear. Is this lap steel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the Hawaiian sound too. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's Bonner.
Oh, is it?
He's got a YouTube channel.
No.
Of course he doesn't.
Anyway, so he said, I had to go up to the house to give him his clothes back. And he said, "Come on up. I'll show you my lap steel." I was like, "Okay." I was like ready to go home and get in the shower because I was frozen.
He's like,
And we went.
"You
up.
look cold, son. Why don't you take off those clothes?"
He wasn't that kind of priest. But we went up to this attic. Like, he's got this loft upstairs that's his music room. And he put on the karaoke versions of hymns, like on his iPod, and played them through the speaker, and then played lap steel to them. And I will say, even though that's kind of cheesy, man, that guy can really play. He was like an outstanding lap steel player. But it was still really odd because I was shivering and I was blue, and he was concentrating, and so I didn't know what to say. And he played a couple songs, like probably 20 minutes worth of songs, and then I was like, I didn't want him to start another one because I was so cold and I wanted to go home so badly.
Did you clap?
I was like, man, I said, "Bonner, I'm not saying this to butter you up here, man. That is the best lap steel playing I've ever heard. But can you just answer me this? These pedals down here, they bring you up a half step, or I tried to get into the technical side of it, so we talked about that a bit, and then I went home. But the whole point of that story was that it was pissing down rain, and as I said, the river had been really calm. And the next day, I got the boat assembled, and Mum left. Mum was gone, so it was just me, and I put this little fucking dinky anchor on it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go fishing on that other side of the river because the river's been calm. So I walked up and down, caught a trout, killed it. Like that was the one. Had it for breakfast. It was terrible. And then but I felt bad, so I had to eat some of it. And then I launched my boat and forgot. First of all, I launched the boat and forgot that you have a little thing that you need to stick in the engine to make it work. So I drifted down the river about 300 feet before I managed to get in. Then I went up to the house, got the thing, put it in, launched the boat again, got the engine started, crossed the river, and thought, boy, this is really flowing a lot. And then I couldn't get the anchor to go down. And then I got the anchor down, and I could feel it bumping along the bottom because there was so much current, my anchor wasn't heavy enough to hold me. And I said, fuck it, I'm just going to fish for a couple of seconds just to say I did it, just proof of concept. So I started fishing, and then instantly I hooked into something. I was like, yes! And it was a tree that had washed down from the rainstorm because there had been a landslide upriver. And I caught a tree, and then as I looked around, there were all these trees and like big sticks and things flying down the river. And I thought, oh my God. And I looked around, and I had drifted, even with the anchor down, way outside of where I knew where I was in the river. I said, fuck, I only have 6 horsepower. So I panicked, and I pulled the anchor in and dropped my oar in the water, and it just floated away instantly. And I couldn't reel in my fly because it was stuck on a tree, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just break it off. And I got the anchor up, and then I started floating down with the tree so I could whip my thing a bit, and I got the fly off and reeled that in. And then I couldn't get the engine to start, and I was drifting faster and faster. It was it was becoming an emergency. And I went by all these camps, and I was like, man, I'm going to fucking Blackville. I'm 2 miles down the river. So I got the engine started, and it says, new engine, you're supposed to run it at quarter throttle for the first 10 hours.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then half throttle for the next 10 hours. I went full throttle, and I was not moving. I was stuck. And I was like, I am so far away from home. So I pinned the throttle. And then I kept thinking of the guy saying, well, if the current's going 40 miles an hour, your boat can go 5 miles an hour. It means you're going out to sea at 35 miles an hour. I kept thinking of that. I was like, fuck, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of this from the rain? And there were all these trees, and I could dodge it like in Frogger. You could dodge the trees coming down, but I couldn't get upriver. So finally I thought, what if I just cross the river? Because I can dodge the trees. So if I go at an angle, I can get across. And then find coves to go into and work my way up the bank. And so I did that, and at full throttle, it took me about 45 minutes to get back to... I had started across from my camp, and it took me 45 minutes to get back to my camp. With the throttle pinned. I thought for sure I was going to die. I kept hearing the voice of that guide in my head. Like,
well, where does
no,
it go out to?
that's a
Like,
death trap.
does it go out to the ocean? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, it goes to the Atlantic Ocean. That's where the salmon are going.
That's pretty funny.
So I did make it home, and I got out of the boat, and I was just like, oh, fuck this. I pulled it right up onto the grass. I was like, I'm not doing that again. We'll do it in the summer. It was so scary. It was so scary. Losing the oar. When I lost the oar and it floated away, and I was like, fuck it, man. All I could think of was you on your dirt bike, thinking that you'd lost your goggles and being like, fuck it, man. I don't even care.
Yes.
Just like survival mode.
I'm not going back up that fucking mountain.
I lost my goggles, but fuck it, man. They're on your chin.
Oh, God. I'm so hot.
So the other funny thing that happened right after our last podcast is I went up to the camp to get it ready for the spring, and we were driving on Howard Road, which is the like a road that goes along the river. And Chrissy said, "Do you smell smoke?" I said, "Yeah, I do kind of smell smoke. Somebody's probably having a bonfire." And as we came around the corner, we realized, no, it's a forest fire. It was a fairly big forest fire. And this is like not far from our camp. And there are camps around there. I was like, fuck, Chrissy. Like nobody's going to be here. Nobody's going to know because people come in the summer, like in fishing season. I said, maybe call the fire department and just let them know. And so she called the fire department. And I got out of the car with Jack and I was like, it's burning all around the edges, but the middle's not bad. Maybe we can start trying to put it out, towards where the next camp is. We'll just stay upwind and stomp it out. And as I was doing it, and it was a fairly big fire, I realized I'm quite good at stomping out the fire. Like I got an edge under control, and then I got, this thing was probably like an acre that was burning. And as I walked around the periphery of it, I could put it out with my boot. And so I kept stamping out the fire. And I thought, man, the fire trucks have to get here sometime. Stamping it out. And I got to the other side and I said, well, we might as well work our way up. So Jack and I went up and I kept stamping it. And then we got to the other corner and I stamped it all the way back to the road and got it out completely. And just as I finished putting it out, about 5 fire trucks came and people were like full emergency mode. Jumping out, they all had stuff on their backs. They're like, "Where's the fire, man? Where's the fire?" I was like, "I put it out with my shoe." I'm sorry, guys.
Like, oh,
they were like, "Did you call 911?" I was like, "Yeah, I got my wife to call 911." Sorry.
Oh no.
They're like, "Man, if you can put out a fire with your shoe, you don't need to call the fire department." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it looked huge." I was trying to show them, like, I was like, let's walk the periphery. You'll see how big it is. It's like, it's like a couple acres that were on fire. They're like, yeah, that's not that big a fire, man. You put it out
and then
with
the torrential. Torrential rain. Well, probably what you were thinking of is back in the day when we were burning the armyworm nests with kerosene, when we tried to stomp them out, and then they stuck to our boot. Not only on fire, but on fire with kerosene. The fire would just start creeping up our legs.
You know what? I think it's because we wore Doc Martens and the sole was made of like a petroleum product. Because those things burn.
I just acquired a new pair of Doc Martens.
I'm envious of your ability to wear any shoes other than like specific brands for your foot. For like... I have to wear double E wide orthopedic shoes. I just got a new pair of New Balance old man sneakers that are my main shoes for work.
Well, you know what? It's I don't know about you, but I shop on Amazon every day, but not like looking for anything specific. I just troll the deals that they've got on.
Yeah.
And they had those ones on. Normally they're like $250. They were $100. So I was like, I'll get those because I need them for work. Yeah. And then, not yesterday, but last week, I saw a pair of Timberland hiking boots.
Oh, yeah, Mom told me.
They were only $80, so I got those, and we got Elijah a pair of Keen hiking boots for his birthday. So yesterday, we decided that we would try out our new hiking boots, and I was like, oh well, I know this place up the road. I went there like literally 10 years ago. I was there, and I couldn't find it, so I just looked on Google Maps for trails. And I found this trail, and it was all paved. And I was like, oh, well, this is nice. It's like through the woods. It's very nice. So I was like, okay, let's go, Elijah. And we started walking. We walked for about 10 minutes. And he was like, Dad, this isn't hiking. This is just a road in the woods.
Just walking.
Like this.
Yeah.
This is walking.
It was paved. It was a paved road.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm going to go hiking. And I was like, all right. Like, okay, you've triggered me. Let's hike.
I got to see what these puppies can do.
Let's hike, motherfucker. So we came across this trail that branched off from this road in the middle of the woods. And we decided to go for a hike. And it started out like with not a straight incline or anything like that, but like it was a steady incline up this mountain. And we were going, and he started like running ahead, and I was like, "Oh, you got to pace yourself if you want to be a good hiker." And so he kind of fell back, and then we got kind of to the top, but then it had this huge dip, and then this huge like almost vertical, like you had to lean forward quite a bit to go up the hill again.
It wasn't like hands and knees climbing.
No. It was it was just a very steep incline.
Yeah.
Kind of like a BMX jump.
Or like the kamikaze slide at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
That's a good reference for everybody who's not from the Moncton area of New Brunswick. Because you won't know what the fuck we're talking about. Steep water slide.
So then, also, I wonder if they're allowed to call it the kamikaze anymore. Anyway, so we started up that one, and we got to the top, and my Apple Watch was like, bro, your heart rate is just too high. I was like, I know.
Ventricular fibrillation.
I was like, I know my heart rate is high. I can't see. But Elijah was like, Dad, let's just turn back. I'm really tired. This is hard. And I was like, no, we keep going. We keep going. This is not, we're not doing this half-assed. These shoes are expensive.
Turn him off hiking for the rest of his life.
So he kept falling behind, and I would smack him on his ass to get him to go faster, because I knew that if I stopped, I was like, I'll either black out or just straight up have a heart attack. So just keep going. And I was just a sweat ball. And I was wearing, my mom sent me these shorts that I squeezed myself into, thinking that we'd go on like a little brisk hike.
Yeah.
And they were Columbia ones, but they were really light khakis. And they were that like kind of, I don't know, like sail material, like they're polyester. And almost like a swimming suit. But we kept going up and up and up, and he was like, Dad, I really just want to turn around. I was like, nope, no, we're more than halfway. It's going to be longer to go back than it would be. Sorry, that's him. I should take him again.
If you don't behave,
so then
I'm going to take
we finally started to go downhill, and we got to the end, and all these people were passing us. And it wasn't until I got to our car, after we'd passed, like we don't live in a hoity-toity area, but this trail started in like a very rich area. Yeah. So it was all these kind of rich people going on their daily walks on their paved area.
Yeah.
And I got to the car, and I looked down, and I noticed that the pants that Mom had sent me were soaked through with sweat, and everyone could see like everything underneath.
Oh, were they white?
Well, they're really light khakis, so as soon as they get any moisture on them, they become transparent. It's like the paper bag that holds the donut,
Yeah. Yeah. They're grease. They're grease. Chrissy just got yoga pants from Old Navy, and they're you can definitely see her vagina through them when she's swimming. And I was like, like people, like men are staying at the gym just to see your vagina. Like that's
that's part of the charm, Jake.
Join. Yeah,
it's part of the charm.
Yeah. And now we're gonna jam out with our clam out. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, I'll rock out with my cock out.
Yeah, I'm gonna road out with my chode out. I don't know. That made a lot of sense. I tend to wear loose pants because I have a small penis, so it's.
When I was making that joke about washing the feet. Do you remember we used to go to Bible camp?
Yeah.
And the other families were not like high class, but we were definitely the dirtiest ones there.
I don't know. It was almost like a race to the bottom. It was.
Well, there was this one part where we went into a shed. It was like make believe we're back in the time of Jesus, and we we went into this shed, and it was made up to look like a manger or something. I don't know, and they said, "Okay, I'll wash someone's feet."
Yeah.
And no one put their hand up. And I was like, "Oh, you can wash my feet." And she's like, "Okay, Daniel, come on over and we'll wash your feet. Take off your shoes and socks." And I took off my shoes and socks, and my feet were a mass of warts.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say, that was the whole point of Jesus washing the feet, was that it was gross. And he still did it.
But they still did it.
I got in trouble with somebody just recently for joking about Jesus washing the feet. I got in trouble for saying, "Do you think Jesus offering to wash your feet is like when somebody offers you a piece of gum?" It's like, your feet stink, but I'm trying to do this in like a nice way. So he's like, "My disciples, let me wash your feet." And in his mind, he's really thinking, "Please let me wash them." Really gross. I can't handle the tent stench. But somebody was really mad that I made that joke on Facebook.
People are fucking so soft at the moment.
I was like, man, I could see now. See if Rob's still listening. I want Rob to weigh in on whether that's an extremely offensive joke, because she was like, "The washing of the feet was a huge ordeal." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying maybe their feet stunk." And he was like trying to come up with a polite way of like, teaching a lesson and getting rid of the foot stench. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with Jesus being practical. Anyway,
well,
so,
I mean,
Rob, if you want to weigh in on my eternal damnation, which I think a few people on Facebook have already weighed in upon. Just fire me an email. Speaking of Rob, your warty feet are hilarious. But speaking of Rob, poor Rob. Oh my gosh, I don't want to say anything too. Can I tell this story? I guess to tell who Rob is. He's a pastor at our church, and he's the nicest guy. Probably of all of us, the nicest guy I've ever met. Just a genuinely sweet guy. But his he had a COVID case at the church, and they've been really good. It's all socially distanced, but because it's an enormous building, like this church is like the church that all the Chinese people go to, all the Korean people go to. It's a big church now. It's a big congregation, and so they've been really responsible about distancing people out. But the building is built for like 1,000 people, and
yeah.
But of course, when the headline comes out, 200 people attended this service. People went ballistic. So a few years ago, I'd been in the paper saying I was thinking about moving to Maine because I was so PO'd at our government, and people went insane. They're so angry at me for even suggesting such a thing. And then they skewered Rob in the comments section of our local newspaper so badly. I actually went on there and said, he was following the rules. Spare him this animosity. It's ridiculous. It's a huge church. It's the size of Costco. And there are like 1,000 people in Costco. Like people don't know. They're just angry for the sake. Everybody's pissed about being in the pandemic and everything. Anyway, so I sent an email to him and I was like, welcome to my life, Rob, as the scourge of the Telegraph Journal comments section.
No. Yeah, they really railed him.
It'll get better. But his podcast just came out from after when that happened. And he was so despondent and so miserable. I felt so bad for him. It was all like, overcoming depression. It's like, Rob, you gotta come. Rob. You gotta come hang out with me, man. You need somebody.
Maybe you can take him and Bonner out for a wee fish.
Oh, that would be funny. Rob, I could see Rob with Bonner. I could see him. I bet he would do the exact same thing I did, which was when Bonner was like, I don't know if, how much you believe about, snake handling and talking in tongues. I was just like, yeah. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I know.
There's lots of stuff I don't know about.
That's the hardest thing about the nice personality that I have. Like, that is not my true personality.
Yeah.
Is pretending to care. Like, ugh. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, tell me more. Like, but in my deepest, I'm just like, you know what? Silence isn't as awkward as this conversation. Maybe silence is best.
Since we started doing the podcast, I've found that I embrace the awkward conversations because it gives me funny material to talk about later. And look, again, I'm not judging this guy. He was a really good guy. Like, he's a much better person than I am. 100%.
Oh, I mean,
but it was just the situation. I was like, man, I don't know. So one of the questions I asked him was, I said, in the Bible, the Pentecost, because I know you're Pentecostal, I am not 100% sure what that is. So I was
Isn't it when fire comes raining from the sky?
Well, it's something to do with 50 days after the wheat harvest or something, and people spoke in tongues. I don't, honestly, he told me.
Maybe check out Rob's podcast to get the answer on that one.
Rob's such a good guy. Oh, man. I felt so bad getting hammered.
We had Elijah's birthday party, and we had to have people over to our house, which is awful for me.
Yeah.
And it was pouring down rain. So normally we have it in the horse paddock and the kids just kind of disperse. And, we have two bonfires, one where, the kids can roast marshmallows and the other one where people can just kind of go to escape and be quiet.
Yeah.
Kind of like the adult pool at a hotel where, but we couldn't do that. So we had to have all these people on the deck. And there were all these people that I didn't know. And I had the worst migraine that day. Like, and I felt it coming on. I was like, this is a thumper. And I took twice the amount of Nurofen of ibuprofen that you're supposed to take. And I took Panadol. And then I took buprenorphine. And I still couldn't get it under control. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and take an OxyContin.
Oh, no.
So I took an OxyContin. And
happy birthday, son.
No, it was actually really good.
I'm sure it was.
Because then
every relapse feels great at the beginning.
No, because it just kind of made me more chill, and it took away my headache, so I could actually be kind to people. But then, like, my instinct in those social situations is to just, normally I just drink Coke Zero, but we didn't have any Coke Zero, but we did have a whole case of beer. So I had my first beer and I was like, this is great. So I actually had a good time talking to people. I was completely myself. I swore like a sailor, even in front of the children, because I just don't care. And I was like, you know what? If these people don't like me, that's okay with me. I don't really give a shit. I don't know them, so I don't care if I have a relationship with them. So I enjoyed
it so much that I've done it every day since.
No, no. I got to tell you, I like back when I had back surgery and I was taking those tablets all the time.
Yeah.
That was full on addiction. Like only because if you stop taking them, you start feeling like crap. But when I broke my shoulder, they gave me OxyContin, so that's why I had these ones. So I didn't even touch it. So I don't think I'm a full addict anymore. But I can tell you this: it does go well with a bit of beer.
Yeah. And just a couple of toots off a crack pipe. Like the beer kind of makes you sleepier, and then you just smoke a little bit of crack, just a small rock of crack.
Oh my gosh, Jake! I read Under the Dome.
Oh yeah, what a great book, eh?
Oh my gosh, it was well. I say I read it, but I listened to it because I'm in the car all the time. But it's a 35-hour long book.
Yeah,
and
it's as long
I got
as The
through
Stand, I think.
I got through it in a couple of days. I could not stop.
Way better than that stupid TV show.
Oh, this TV show has nothing to do with the book.
Well, there's a dome involved.
That's it, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so good. I've never hated a fictional character more than I hated Jim Rennie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and the way that the guy did the voice, it was so accurate to that type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I read that. Now I'm reading. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm going to get through all of Stephen King's books because they are so good. He is such a good writer.
You know what you'd like? Well, you might like it. I don't know. I'm listening to it now. The Short Stories of Ernest Hemingway, and the guy who reads it is Stacy Keach. You got to listen to this guy's voice. Listen to this perfect voice.
And in some
Oh shit! I hit fucking Siri.
grass in the grain beside the road, and in some places scattered over the road, there was much material.
Oh yeah.
How awesome is that guy's voice?
Well, I liked the Dome mostly because of the guy's voice as well.
Yeah. So Stacy Keach has the perfect voice.
He was so articulate, like the way that he spoke.
Yeah.
It was really, really, really good.
Yeah, Stephen King always has. Yeah,
sorry.
he always has great narrators. And Carl Hyacin has amazing narrators too. I think it's almost always Len Cariou in the first ones, and his voice. He has almost like this guy, Stacy Keach. He has almost the perfect voice for audiobooks. It's just like a, baritone. Well articulated.
The guy was so articulate and like almost to the point where it was like ASMR.
Yeah. Well, I listened to Walden. Walden is the name of the book. I'm trying to think of who the author is. It's old. Anyway, I listened to that by Longfellow, I think, to fall asleep for like a week because it's free on YouTube. Yeah. This guy used it as his audition for narrating other people's books, and he's a good narrator too. And the book is kind of boring. I don't want to. I mean, I didn't like it as much as everybody kind of made it to be such a big deal. Thoreau, William Henry Thoreau. It's just kind of it's about living in the woods on Walden Pond.
Walden Pond.
Walden, in New Hampshire, maybe. He just goes and lives in a cabin. It's all about like giving up the trappings of modern life and becoming a hermit. But to me, I'm like, I'm a hermit in my own mind, but I also want to be able to go to a hospital if I have appendicitis. So,
Paul Esperanza is the guy's name.
Yeah, he's done. I think he's done a few. There's another guy named Beck something who does some of.
No, he's a musician.
No. Just a second.
Steinbeck, I think is who you're thinking of. He's also a writer.
This guy has a really strange voice.
And Paul swaggered up to them.
No, but I'll tell you what he sounds like. He says, "The thing was coming for her."
I know.
No, you know who I mean because he did The Outsider, right?
Yes, yeah. I love him.
Changing in front of her, she was terrified.
Yeah, he's
Michael Beck.
Will Patton. Will Patton is the one that does Mr. Mercedes and The Outsider.
Oh, that's
And-
not the one I'm thinking of.
But I then chose audiobooks that he's narrated because I like his voice so much. So
gosh.
kind of like why everyone listens to this podcast because
Oh, shit. Just a second.
oh wow, that is a weird voice. And Paul sauntered up to the porch.
I don't know what I'm hearing here.
Oh, Paul.
Is that you or is that the show?
Oh, Paul. And then they walked to this.
Believed everything I was told, everything I read, and every
That's actually
dispatch
Stephen
sent
King's
out by
voice.
my own overheated imagination.
Oh yeah, you know who? What did I listen to just recently?
This is fascinating listening for everybody. Me hunting.
Expecting him to refute the sociologist's conclusions.
That's Stephen King again. Never mind. That's his voice. Shoot, I'm trying to figure out which one has
James
him in it.
Franco did one that I really liked just
He
recently.
did
as well, though.
11/22/63, didn't he? He was also the actor in it.
Yeah, but he did the Dead Zone, I think.
Yeah. Did he? Yes, that's right. He narrated it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really good as well. That was a good book. I've only listened to Stephen King books. That's all I listen to.
Oh,
Anyway,
I've
I'm
got-
going to go take Elijah fishing. Last time we caught a barracuda, and it scared us.
I told you that
So-
was a barracuda.
Yeah, I was not.
Oh.
I was not a believer.
Let me tell you one last story as we go. I'll save my story of the brick fire pit for another day when I drove with my car with the hood way up in the air because the truck was loaded with 3,000 pounds of bricks. But let me tell you the story of my patient from the ghetto. So we have what's that music thing called that you can pick? It's Pandora. And it plays like whatever kind of music you want to listen to when
Who
you're...
listens to who uses Pandora?
is that what it's called? I think that's what it's
Spotify.
called. Spotify. That's what it
Spotify.
is. Sorry. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we use Spotify
Pandora.
in one of our operating rooms, and the patient, like the first patient of the day, you usually ask them what kind of music do you like, and they tell you who they listen to, and you put that on, and then it just plays all day. So our first patient was like, I really like Elvis Presley. I was like, awesome, I like Elvis too. I put it on, and I was kind of humming along to the songs, and we did the procedure. And a few patients later, there was this big guy covered in tattoos, and he needed a procedure done. We were talking about, where he's from, and he was, he was big, like, I don't want to say like what race he was, but he was like an ethnic minority kind of guy.
Oh,
And
jeez.
well, no, it just makes it so much more awkward is where I'm going, because we live in a predominantly sort of like white East Coast Canada city. Anyway, he was telling me like, man, I had this really like rough upbringing. I was in the North End, I was on Churchill Boulevard and got into a lot of drugs and stuff. And as he was telling me, the song came on, In the Ghetto. Sing it. And he thought that we had put it on based on what
For
he was
him.
telling me. I was like, man, I'm sorry, it's just on Spotify. We kind of had this like awkward. He wasn't quite accusing us because he was like, I couldn't believe they would do that, and we weren't quite acknowledging what was happening because we were like, I can't believe this is happening. But everybody in the room kind of shared this glance, like, fuck, what are the odds? We were just talking about where this guy's rough upbringing, and this song comes on, and I was so worried he thought we were making fun of him. Anyway. I just felt like such a shithead.
So you
I kinda
quickly put it
forgot.
on to Smack Your Bitch Up by the Prodigy.
No, I never changed it. We went through the whole song because I was like, if I change it now, it's going to be really conspicuous that I'm trying to be like this woke asshole. But if I don't
hilarious.
change it, I was hoping somebody would just like fade the volume down real slow, and that he hadn't noticed, but he noticed. It sucked. Anyway,
Unlucky.
that was I forgot that was an Elvis song, and it was the most unlucky moment. And what a stupid song too. Elvis had a lot of great songs. That was a terrible song. Anyway, fuck.
Well, thanks for listening, weirdos.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll put this up a little bit later.
Yeah,
And,
good luck fishing.
Thanks. Hopefully I don't lose a finger.
See you next time, weirdos.
Bye.